Hi, everyone. I'm Bon Alimagno, Publishing Director for Comics Experience Publishing. Thanks again for joining us at what we hope to be a regular live stream. Joining us today, Perry Crowe, co-creator for Stud and the BloodBlade. He's got a lot to talk about today regarding the second issue. That initial orders for that are going to end in a couple days. We've got some great art to share for it, including some great variant covers. And Andy Schmidt, president and co-founder of Comic Experience Publishing. And wanted to actually start off the conversation, Andy, with, since it's the first time you've been part of these live streams I've been experimenting with, what's it been like launching a new creator-owned comic book publisher in this day and age?
It has been really exciting. Fast-paced and fraught with pitfalls. It's been amazing. No, it's been well. That's actually all true, but it's been I don't know. It's a whirlwind, but it's fun. It's cool, and I think Bon and I, at least have a really concrete understanding of what we hope to do short term and especially long term. In order to benefit creators and fans alike. And so that's the path we're going down, and it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to continue to take a lot of work, but hopefully we're going to, get that support that we need from the comics community. And I've been in the comics community for 20 years, and the community's always been there for me, and I'd like to think that I've always been there for it. So yeah, that's it. It's been a little nuts, but cool. Really cool.
Yeah, nuts in the best possible way.
Right.
And Perry, so you've been in contact with a lot of retailers, and it's always like the most fascinating thing that if folks aren't aware, the way that the direct market works is it's retailers putting their own money first to buy these comics. Unlike a lot of newsstand and book media sales that are returnable, in the direct market, these sales are non-returnable. So these are retailers actually paying for these comics first out of their own pocket. So it's a lot of introducing ourselves and winning them over and winning their trust. And Perry, could you talk a little bit about how that's been going?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. I'm new to this, so I have that, I guess, fresh-faced enthusiasm, but it's fun. And, I mean, I've been reading comics for 40 years or whatever, but this is my first real foray into trying to get people to buy my comic and carry it in their store and stuff. And people have been, really cool. It's been great talking to them, and I think people are excited for a new comic book company, and the independent angle of comics experience, I think, is really exciting for them. And so yeah, it's been a really positive response and fun to talk to people. And I think of my growing up reading independent comics too, and I've read a lot of Marvel and DC, of course, but I had an older brother who he was reading the weirder stuff. He was reading Badger and Flaming Carrot and Vic and Blood, and just weird horror comics that were crazy and fun to read. And so, I mean, I feel like Stud is sort of a blending of those two ideas of like the big, colorful adventure comics like Marvel and DC stuff, but also just kind of weirdness and kitchen sink twists and weird characters and weird names and comedy. And so yeah, it's sort of dovetailing of my interests, and it feels like people have been responding well. But it's sort of like what you were saying with retailers putting up their own money. I'm talking to them and like, oh yeah, it sounds cool, but then they're like, what are you doing to get people into my store to buy the comic? And it's of course total partnership. I'm working with these retailers, and I don't want them to just buy a bunch of comics that they can't sell. I want them to feel great about Stud and about me as a creator more generally, and sort of establishing myself and and showing that, we'll make comics that people want to buy at the end of the day. I mean, that's a huge part of what we're doing here. But so far it's been encouraging, and, we've got the order for issue 1 in the books now, and issue 2 closing this Thursday, like you were saying, initial orders. So it's super exciting, and I'm having fun.
There was something you said there that kind of reminded me, like, you're talking about the books you grew up reading, and that was, it just clicked, and I remembered why. We've got several titles lined up, and one of them had to be the first, and so there was a lot of conversation about, well, which one will be the first one, and one of the reasons that we picked Stud to launch with was because it was boisterous and colorful and kind of, garish in all the right ways. And that was like, it's exciting to look at. It's bright, it's vibrant, it catches your eye. It's got a giant guy with a battle axe. Like you've got a pretty good idea of what you're getting into. Whereas, sometimes, if you launch with a book that's a little more like a suspect, right? Or is like trying to convince you there's something, tease you inside. Like there's no teasing with Stud. What you see is what you get. And I thought it was important to sort of like, that kind of made a statement that, like, we don't mind, we're out there, we can be in your face. And some of our other books are a little more esoteric or whatever, but yeah, I mean, and Stud just, it fires on all cylinders in that very fun, boisterous, adventurous, kind of in your face kind of way. So it seemed like a really great one to stick with, or to launch with, rather.
Cool, and thank you for launching with it. So exciting to be. Oh, and there's our awesome variant that Andy lined up, tapping into his sweet toy manufacturing roots. But I love this so much. I mean, Stud, of course, inspired by many action figures and cartoons of my youth, but of course, He-Man being the most prominent example. And this, I just love this cover so much. Kind of just captures that vibe of the action figure, and super huge appreciation to Emiliano Santalucia. Did I say it right? I hope so.
Pretty close.
But yeah, just really love this variant so much. And I want to go out and buy a Stud figure. And there's Jed's original issue 2 cover, which I love this one equally. I mean, Jed just did such a phenomenal job of creating just, this iconic elements for these villains. So Stud 2, Trapped in the Blade, as you can read there, Stud is, because of the curse on the BloodBlade, he awakens within the blade, and he faces some people who have a bone to pick with him. And it's, again, crazy names. That's one of my favorite things about the He-Man Masters of the Universe is just the crazy names. So we have, the Buzzard Saw is the blade spinning. Oh yeah, here's a look at him. And Dracurilla is a vampire primate. Patriarcher is a mansplaining marksman. We just had fun, and it was so much fun to work with Jed on this. We talk ideas, and I just give him a name like that, just mashing up some concepts, and he would send me an illustration. I'd just be in love with it. And it's been an awesome collaboration, and it's so awesome to be bringing these comics out to readers finally. And here's some great images, Gary and Witchtress. For all the mothers and sons out there, you get a little, maternal instinct excitement in the issue, which is, I think, what all comic fans are looking for, right?
That's usually what I'm looking for.
well, I just love how, as completely batshit as this comic is, just like these moments of I don't want to call it humanity because these aren't humans, but it's like this moment of these moments of tenderness amidst like all this chaos. It's just one of those things where, like, from page to page, you feel like you shift, into different gears.
Yes. Yeah, you definitely do, and that was, again, I think that's one of the things that all of us that reviewed the submissions really responded to was it's very easy to just talk about the zaniness of it, right? But there's this humanity to it. There are the expression of things that we relate to, of emotions we relate to, is bonkers and awesome. But that underlying emotion is something that I really can't relate to. You know, whether it is the maternal instincts, or it's the need to be, you know, loved by the crowd, or it's, you know, it's any number of these things. And so I really like the fact that there are all of these things that, like, I find myself strangely relating to these, you know, creatures with like half of an insect face and half the face of a rock giant or whatever, you know, like
or just a living beard.
Right, a living beard. Yeah.
And it's like, so when I was we don't usually give out this many preview pages, but when I was looking through the book, I was like, you know what? The last page I want to send out, I want the last quote to be, "Let's have an orgy." So it was just, just in terms of like,
because, you know, it's for kids.
Well, let's have one.
Yeah,
you know, it's a common expression. But I mean,
that's gonna be on a shirt one day.
There's definitely a hashtag coming once this book hits the stands. But yeah, that's so flattering and great to hear, you know, you guys talking about that. And certainly that's, you know, you could just make a completely crazy book and just weird characters slaughtering each other and call it a day. And it wouldn't be, you know, that fully, you know, wouldn't resonate. And I think certainly one of the elements of Stud is that it takes place in, you know, Ouroboros, and it's this fantastical world where myths and legends and dreams come to life. And so I wanted to come up with the motivations for these characters are really kind of fundamental, like you were saying, Andy, like being beloved by the crowd as a hero, and you have like your reputation and what you would do to protect that. And even, you know, Witchtress and Gary, like the love of you know, a parent for a child is such a fundamental, you know, motivation, and just constant in the universe, and just, or the, you know, desire to make lasting achievements, you know, in life, and not feel like you're just constantly on a treadmill or whatever. And so it's that times, you know, Dracula gorilla guy. That's what you get with Stud. So there you go.
Yeah, you also get was it 40, 48, 44 pages of content per issue. So it's definitely a bargain for the price. You get a whole lot of Stud for your money.
Yeah, I love that. I love, you know, that we're doing the double issues, and, you know, I think people are going to, you know, spend a lot of time in Ouroboros, in the world of Stud. And, you know, I think 22 pages is fine for a comic, of course. But, you know, I've certainly read 22-page comics where I got to the end and I was like, I didn't feel like a whole lot happened. And so I feel like even in 22 pages of Stud, a lot happens.
Yeah,
in 44 pages, yeah, you're losing your mind, kind of, in a good way.
Yeah, if anything, like all what I've loved about a lot of the books that we're publishing and that we're now soliciting is you definitely feel like you've got not just your money's worth, but like your time's worth. You feel full. You've got a buffet of story in like one comic, as opposed to, you know, reading a comic and feeling like, you know, you got part one of like a 6. We're giving you per capita probably like one of the greatest concentration stories out there that you could get on the racks. And naturally, already your storytelling was so dense that like making each issue double issue already basically doubled that density.
Yeah, this is a 7-layer dip right here. Maybe 12, 13, for all I know. But yeah.
Let me also plug another comic, Howling Snow, that we're publishing. Initial orders for that are also due in a few days. And folks can check out the live stream that I had with David Ramirez last week, where he deep dives into the origin of the book and talks about himself and his travels through China. But definitely worth want to get Andy's perspective on this. This is a book that you had been looking at for a while, just like Stud. And I'm wondering what about it, similar to Stud, stuck out at you as something that you wanted to publish?
Yeah, well, the book was brought to my attention by some other friends of mine that knew David and sort of kept kind of saying, you need to read this book. It's called Howling Snow. It's about like this sword fighting fox. And I was like, I'm not sure I'm the audience for this. I thought maybe my kids would be. But they kind of kept telling me, like, check it out. So finally I did, because I have a low threshold for pain, I guess. So I finally gave in, and was like immediately hooked by it, because it's so much more than a book about a sword fighting fox. There's, again, kind of like we were talking about with Stud, there's emotions and there's motivations that you can understand, but it's all based on this Chinese legend and I'm sure David I didn't actually watch the last live stream, Bon, I'm sorry, but I'm sure David got into like all of his adventures and and all the research and everything that he did, and the time they spent in China. All of that is very cool, and he actually does like translation work from Chinese to English to Spanish, and so he's really in these cultures. But yeah, I mean, the idea that I'm gonna murder this, but like I think of them as sort of like the spirit animals and that kind of thing. But there's this quest for this sword, and then once I just started looking at Soul's art on it, I don't know, the whole thing just kind of clicked together for me in the way that it feels like a straightforward story, but it also feels like a fable. It also feels like an action adventure story. Like it weaves all of these different sort of genre and emotions and tones and tastes all into one narrative. And then when I got to the end of it in about 40 pages or so, and it was the end, I mean, I felt like completely, kind of like you were saying, I felt like I had this full, burrito, and comic burrito or 7-layer dip, and next thing I know, I'm sitting there turning around to Bon and saying, Bon, you got to read Howling Snow. Like, I mean, I was acting just like the people are telling me, and so I'm hoping that the readers are going to. I mean, I think the readers who read it will react the same way, I think, because there is a lot to unpack. There's a lot to relate to. And even on a quick read, there's a lot that you're going to get out of it, but you could spend so much more time with it, and kind of, there really are layers here in this thing. So it just appealed to me, because at the bottom line, we're looking for stories that are well told and that we think will connect with audiences. And some are going to be splashy and in your face, like Stud, and others will be hopefully splashy enough that you pick them up, but you're going to have to dig in and do a little work and soul searching, and that's Howling Snow. And I'm not saying that in any kind of negative way. I like that kind of thing. I just took like weeks to read Barry Windsor Smith's Monsters, because I was poring over every single page of that thing. And that's the type of reader that, I like both reading experiences. And so we're hoping to provide stories well told for readers of all kinds of varieties. And Howling Snow definitely has its action in it. It's got some pretty awesome action, and the villain in it is like pretty scary. So I enjoyed reading it, because it's so rare. I mean, I've been reading comics pretty much my whole life, and I've been a storyteller for so long. It's very rare that I'm reading a comic or watching a movie or whatever, where I actually can feel myself getting like tense. Mm-hmm. And I could with the final action sequence in Howling Snow. I got, I could just feel it. It was gripping. And if I'm feeling that, then that definitely tells me something is worth a serious look for publication.
Yeah. And we're not going to spoil it here, but yeah, unlike, a lot of comics these days, again, you might have to wait for that climax for 6 issues, 6 more months, but all of that, you get the full burrito here. You get a nice complete package. Yeah, and just, it's one of those things where I think the line that we're publishing initially, whether it's Stud or Howling Snow, we got Space Course coming out soon. It's they're tonal shifts, but every comic has this very unique point of view of the creator. And I think, when we talk about what kind of projects we want to publish, we always talk about, we don't want to publish the stuff that other publishers have been publishing. We want something that speaks to our own unique viewpoint on comics and our own unique tastes. And I think this is like reflecting, what we publish so far is definitely reflecting that.
Yeah, and we talked too about the types of creators that we want to publish, and we want to publish creators that have that, are bringing that special sauce, to these projects. And Perry and Jed have that, and David and Ensol have that, and Gannon and Brian have that on Space Corps, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But yeah, I mean, it's really great to be working with creators who understand that. And this is, I mean, I say this literally when I'm talking to creators about contracts, that understand that the signing of the contract is not the passing of a baton. Like, hey, I made this thing, now you go out and do it. That the signing of the contract is like a marriage. Like, okay, we're in this together, and we got to work together to go sell this to retailers and sell it to fans, and we all have to evangelize for it, and that's the way that it works. But that means, you have to actually care about the books, because there's no way to evangelize about something that you don't actually believe in. It just doesn't work.
And
yeah, I think that's so true, and it's been great working with both of you and Paul as well. It's not on the call, but I really enjoy that feeling of partnership. And I mean, I'm a writer and an editor, and I've written many things and edited many things, but this is my first comic, and I have loved comics for so long that it's such a thrill. And I am so blessed to work with Jed, because his art blows me away every time I see it. And it's so easy to be excited about this comic, and so fun to tell people, and I show them the art and they love it, and I'm like, it just feels great. And it's a hill to climb to get the word out, because there's a lot of the whole noise to signal to noise. It's an expression I'm trying to use and I'm not using it correctly, but there's a lot of comics out there, and you got to try to stand out from the crowd. And it's great to have the support of Comics Experience, and it's great to have the great art from Jed to show it. And hopefully he feels like I gave him great ideas to draw as well. So, I mean, I'm having a ball, and I love it. And I'm so grateful to everybody with Comics Experience and all the retailers who have taking a chance on this unknown schmo here and his weird He-Man ideas. So yeah, this is awesome. To sum up.
Yes, and I completely agree. Wanted to mention that in addition to comic shops, you can also pick up anything that you could pre-order anything that we just talked about today at cexpublishing.com/store. Those are pre-orders that we actually fulfill with our own fulfillment partner. But yes, please also go to your local comic shop tomorrow. Ask them to order as much as possible of CX Publishing's publications. We would greatly appreciate it. We've got this mission of supporting creators and creator-owned comics, and we can't do it. We can't continue to support that mission without the support of all of you. Yeah. So, would anyone like to say any last words before we break?
Just thank you, Perry. Thank you, Jed, who's not here, and Bon. Obviously, thank you for all the work you've been doing, but also for everybody else that's shown up or is listening to this later, watching this later, and is actively trying to support creator-owned comics. Thank you, because that's how this works.
Yeah, thanks everybody, and thanks. Buy through comicsexperiencepublishing.com as well. There's an awesome metal variant cover of Stud that looks phenomenal, and I can't wait to get my copy. But yeah, lots of great exclusives on the website.
Yeah, and thanks so much everyone for tuning in. We'll be back sooner than later, and catch you another time. Thank you.
Bye.